Hello guys, so this is still continuation of our REST API and Flutter course. So we're still almost finishing up the REST API. So in this particular video, you're going to see how to upload images to the Mongodb using the GridFs in Node.js. So we're going to make use of the GridFs stream. We're going to make use of the GridFs storage for actually storing. The stream is used for streaming the images. We're going to make use of the Malta. Malta going to be the middleware in a REST API route. And we're going to make use of the crypto. So you're going to see how all this thing works together to enable image upload to a MongoDB database. So make sure you stay tuned, subscribe to the channel, and follow up for more wonderful programming software videos. So at the end of it, there's something we're trying to achieve. So in this video, at the end of this video, you're going to be able to upload images like you see here. This is a profile image. And then, okay, this is a token, yeah. I'll show you how I did that. But for this video, we're going to look at how to generate images. Like now, this is an image. Let me click on the link and then I'm going to bring it here and I'm going to run a GET request. It's going to return to us an image you see that we uploaded. So this is a screenshot of my Postman IDE. But I think I should upload another image. Let me change this here. This is what we're going to achieve. This is what you're going to achieve at the end of this tutorial now, at this video for our REST API endpoint. I want to look for another picture to upload, so I'm going to find, let me check my desktop. No, desktop. Okay, so now this is it. Now I'm going to click on this. And I'm going to choose this design image here. Okay, so I'm going to send the request. Okay, so the post have gone. So this is the endpoint is working. We've uploaded a new user with a new image. So now this is the image here. If you go down, we're gonna click on this image link, and then this is the link here for the image. And if I click on, let me copy it and paste in browser. So now you can see the browser returns to us the image we uploaded to our MongoDB database. This is what you're gonna achieve at the end of this video. You should be able to do this. And if I run it on the Postman IDE, it returns to us the same image. So now we can upload and retrieve image using our Postman, using our Node.js and everything, and it returns to us the image object in our console. So you're going to see how this is going to be achieved in this tutorial. So you're going to know how to upload images in the GridFs storage, the GridFs stream, the Malta, the crypto. You're going to see how that all works together to enable image upload. So been away for a while, and I decided to use this Christmas vacation to actually complete my series. So in this video, yeah, we're going to continue from where we stopped in our RestApi course. I know you all always wanted to know how to make REST APIs for mobile app. But right here, we're going to be uploading images to our MongoDB. So a user can register, a user can sign up, and then we upload images to our MongoDB. So we check in our project here. Previously, we installed all of these. We used the Bicrypt, we used the .env, we used the Express, we used the Mongoose, we used the Nodeman. I explained all of this in my other videos. So if you haven't watched it, I would advise you go back, watch it, subscribe to the channel to stay updated for new series coming up, because there are a lot of things to do here. So in this video, we're going to now install new dependencies. You're going to see how to use the GridFs storage, the GridFs stream. We're going to do a lot of things here, so stay tuned. I'm going to upload images using the Malta. I'm going to start using Malta to upload images, how to stream images using your REST API. I'm going to explain everything step by step for you all. So that is it. So and in the controller, you saw how we did this in the other video. I explained everything and you saw how I did it. So I'm going to tell you the steps here. We're going to use the GridFs. This will help us upload images. I don't know if you all know about it, but the GridFs here, this is the documentation. You see, you come to this link here, and in this link, you read more about it. You see, it's actually cool. The GridFs is a specification for storing and retrieving files that exceed the Bison document format size limit of 16 MB. So the GridFs is actually used for storing and retrieving files, any type of file, images, PDF, So instead of storing a file in a single document, the GridFs divide the file into parts, called chunks. So the chunks and stores each chunk as a separate document. So you can upload large images, images that are large. So by default, the GridFs uses a default chunk size of 255 kilobytes and divide the file into chunks of that, you see. So it's actually good for uploading files. very good. I'll show you how to use this GridFs. So they said larger than the chunks or whatever. You can go through the documentation and you can see how it is being used, or you can use it. So that is just it. Let me scroll down and check if there's anything here. So the GridFs is actually really a cool tool, and you will see how we use it in this video. You're gonna see how it's gonna work. You're gonna see how I use it. I'll explain it for you, and before you know, you'll be good in using it. So you see, let me check something here. No, let's see. All right, so let's see. I want to install the GridFs storage. So let me go npm id. So we need the GridFs stream. So that's it there. Right, so right here you can see this is more of like another documentation. It tells us what to do, and npm, how to install it. So I'm gonna copy this npm. I'm gonna copy it and go back to my VS Code, and I'm gonna paste it down in the terminal. You see. I'm going to my package.json. Currently, you see there is no grid, whatever. Open the terminal, and open the terminal. I'm gonna say npm. Yeah, I just paste it in here. So npm install the GridFs stream. So make sure you also do the same thing, because without this, you're not gonna install the dependency. So you have to run the npm install the GridFs stream, and it's gonna take a while to install. So make sure because it's actually fast here. Right, so it's done installing. So now we have the GridFs stream, and if you go, you see it there. So I've installed one library now that's gonna enable us upload images. I've installed the GridFs stream, and you can see it here. This is the GridFs stream. So to upload an image, remember this is important because you need this. You need that GridFs stream to stream and upload your images. So install that. Then I'm gonna tell you about something else called the Malta. I'm gonna say the Malta GridFs storage. It is also needed. So I'm gonna copy it, and I'm gonna say this is the second thing here I'm gonna install. So let's see. I'm gonna go through the documentation. Here. Okay, the GridFs stores engine for Malta to store uploaded files directly to Mongodb. You see the features here, and it's actually cool. Let me see something here. And the GridFs stream. I want to compare the two between the GridFs stream. I want to learn easily stream. Okay, this one helps you to stream files to and from MongoDB's GridFs storage. You just stream the files, you stream it. Well, in here, you don't just stream. Yeah, actually, it uses Malta to store. The other one streams the files, while this one helps you store uploaded files directly to MongoDB. So you can go through the documentation and read between the two, the GridFs stream and the GridFs storage. Okay. So that's it. I think I will just have to install this. I'm just gonna copy it. And then you also install this. So I've installed the other one, stream. I'm gonna install the storage here. Remember, it helps you to store, it's a storage engine for Malta to store uploaded files directly to MongoDB. So I'm just gonna copy it. When I copy it, it will just help you to stream. I already installed this. I want you guys to just go through this documentation and read the differences, the differences between the two, because they do two different things, but they are both useful when you're uploading an image and when you're streaming images. They are both useful. So, but you have to install the both of them. Then we also need another one. We need the Crypto.js. So we're going to use this Crypto.js to actually generate binaries, you see, byte, all of that. So you have to install this crypto. Then you have to install the stream, and you have to install the storage. Okay. So the crypto random byte method used to generate cryptographically well-built artificial random data and number of bytes. It just helps you to generate bytes for your images and all of that. You need this crypto, it's necessary. I will use it, and I'm gonna show you how to use it as well. So size, whatever. I'll show you how to use the crypto. Then I'll show you how to use the GridFs storage, and I'll show you how to use the GridFs stream, which are all useful while you upload your images. It's gonna be very easy, and I'm sure you would understand it because I made time and I took my time out to do this. So it returns a buffer, and that. This is I hope you've seen the link. The link is up here. Make sure you go through all of it. So install the crypto.js. I'm gonna copy it. I'm going back to my VS Code, and my VS Code, I'm gonna install it. npm install the crypto.js. So I've installed the first one. I've installed the FS storage stream. I've installed the storage, the GridFs stream. I've installed the storage. I've installed the GridFs stream, and now I am installing the crypto. So these are the three things you need to install right now if you want to follow up and upload images to MongoDB. You have to put those three in there. So talking about Malta is also needed. I'm going to make use of Malta. So I want to install all the necessary libraries. So Malta is a Node.js middleware for handling multi-path form data, which is primarily used for uploading files. So Malta is necessary, because we're going to use that middleware in a route, all of that. So we're going to copy this, and I'm going to say back in my VS Code, and I'm going to say npm install Malta. So you install the GridFs storage, you install the GridFs stream, and you also install the Malta. Those things are necessary. So uploading images to MongoDB storage. Then this one is used for streaming. This is used for streaming data, streaming images into and out of the storage. Then the crypto is used for generating the byte from the images. When you do that, this will generate byte, and then we have the Malta. The Malta is used for making the form data multipath. It's for uploading files using the form data multipath. It's also a middleware. It helps in the middleware. Actually, it's a middleware for uploading files. So you can go browse more about all these four things, and you see how it works. So uploading multipath and form. So you're gonna need all of this. I'm gonna show you how to use it. I'm gonna show you how they all work. So these are the things you need to install, and make sure you're following up. To pause the video, install all of these, and then come back to the video, and then continue. Continue. Let me get that off right here. So let me arrange all of this. So with all that being said and done, we're gonna proceed here, and now what we have to do is, let me walk you through some things we did before. In a package just you see we imported we installed the GridFs stream, we installed the Malta, and we installed the GridFs storage. So now let's see, we're gonna make use of this. I'm gonna show you how I make use of this. So what's the first thing to do? First of all, we have to import all those things into our API controller class, because this is the class that's going to handle all the image upload, the API controller. This is the class that you log in, you register with your profile picture and all of that. So we have to import the Malta, which is important. And also we're going to import the GridFs storage. So that is it. We're going to import the GridFs storage, and also we're going to import the GridFs stream, and we're also going to import the crypto. So we're going to import all the libraries we installed, because we're going to make use of it while uploading images inside this API controller class. So make sure you're following. You can pause the video and look through what I've just written down here. And I'll be dropping the source code at the end of this tutorial. So make sure you subscribe and stay tuned. So the GridFs stream, we're gonna import it too. So make sure you import all the necessary libraries. First of all, you install them and then import them. You can read through the documentation to understand more about the libraries. Then lastly, we're going to import a crypto here. So now we have all the libraries imported. We have the Malta, the GridFs storage, the GridFs stream, we have the crypto. So now it's time to start making use of all these imported libraries. So let's go. So after importing all of these, you're gonna import them. I showed you how I did that. We're gonna create a folder. We're gonna call it, before that, let's close all of this. Now we're going to create a folder. This folder will be called the utils. So inside the folder, we're going to create a JavaScript file, that will handle the connection to MongoDB so that we won't have to write boilerplate code all the time. So we're calling this class connection.js, We're going to create a class here. This will avoid boilerplate code because we just have to call on the connection file, connection.js file. We just have to call on the file whenever we want to trigger a MongoDB connection. So whenever you want to trigger a MongoDB connection, we just import this file and we just call on the connection function. We just call the function. So it helps us prevent a boilerplate code. But initially we had to write this down here. So we're going to copy all of this. Because we don't need it here. We're going to create this connection inside a file so that we just call on it when we need it. So we're going to copy it out and then we're going to paste it inside here. That's it. So now there are things we need here. We need in this mongoose because we need mongoose to connect to the MongoDB, and we need .env to get access to the MongoDB URL. So you're pasting it. We need mongoose, we need .env. So let's go back. I'm going to copy the .env.config. Remember that in order to initialize that .env, you need a config. You need to just call on the config function you get. So we're going to say .env.config. That's what we're going to use in here. Let's copy it. I don't want to type much. Inside the connection here, we're going to say .env.config. And in here, we're going to copy the Mongo URL. So we need this URL too. It's necessary because you cannot connect to the MongoDB without a URL, right? So that is it. We're going to select Mongo URL equal to this. So that is it now. So now we have the .env, we have everything set. So what is remaining to do is to export this function. We have to export this function so that we can access it in any other file. If we don't export it, then we cannot call on it from any other file. So we're going to say the module.export equal to connect db. So that is how we export it. We use the module.export equal to connect db. So now it is exported. Let me check. Let me compare if I wrote this. The module, is it modules or module? Yeah. Okay, it's module.export. Okay. So we're going to say module.export is equal to connect db. All right, so now we've done all of these and we've initialized and we've exported the function. So now is how do we make use of this function now? So to make use of the function, let's go to the index.js. We're going to make use of it here so that once you do the npm start, automatically it will connect to MongoDB. So to use it, we have to import it. Remember, we exported it, and now we have to import it to use it. To import it, we have to call on the file by going to the utils folder, and then we call on the connection.js file. So we're going to come here, and then we're going to go to the models. We're going to go to the utils. So that is it. And then we go to the utils, we call on the connection.js. To connection.js. So that is it. All right. We don't need to put the JS. By default, it knows that it is JS. So you don't need to put that. You can put it if you want to. So now that way we have actually imported this function that we exported here. So now we're going to call on this function on connection. We're going to call on it when we want to connect to the MongoDB. And we did that already, but I'm going to get rid of this. We're going to connect it here. So to do that, we just write connection, and that is it. All right, so this way now we've triggered the function inside the connection.js file. So now we automatically will connect to the MongoDB. That's just it. So we don't need this here because we're not using it again. And also, we don't need this here. All right. So now, this is it. Now everything is in here now. So all the connection is handled in this file. And then we exported the function that does that here. So when we call on this function, we export it out and then it connects. So now let me go to my terminal and then let me close all of these terminals here. I'm gonna close it, and my new terminal, again, this is cd or npm start. npm start here. So this will run. Connect. Okay, it's good. You see, so MongoDB have been connected. It still works here, and then it's writing down here RestApi port 9000. Okay. So now it works. Now, see this. Make sure you do all of this in your connection file. Create a connection.js file and do that, and export it and import it when you want to use it. So now we're going to our API controller, and in the API controller too, we have to make sure that the routes are triggered only after connection to MongoDB is triggered and executed. So we have to connect to MongoDB. Then after that, we now we now trigger the route. So first of all, to connect to MongoDB, we have to import from the connection.js. We're going to import the function here. We're going to the utils here, and the utils. From there, we now go to the connection. Okay, so that's it. Okay, so this works now. We've imported it. Now let's call on this function. We want to connect to MongoDB. So we're going to remember we exported the function. So now I'm going to say we exported this function here. This function you see right here. We exported it here, and now we are also importing it in the API controller. So now I'm going to call the function to connect to MongoDB inside the API controller. We're going to say connection .then. So we are going to import the connection class and then rename it GridFs. So now we say connection then. When the function is triggered and executed, we trigger a callback function that contains the route. So that's what I want to do here. We just have to trigger a callback function after the MongoDB have been connected. So the callback function here we'll just execute the route. We'll just lay out the route, We'll just contain all the routes. So, but for now, I'm just going to type in the console. For now, before we put in the route inside the callback function, we're just going to type in the console, this is connection inside. This is connection inside Mongo controller. All right, so I just want to test this by printing it out in the console. If this works, then we're going to write all our route inside this callback function. So the routes will only be triggered after the connection to MongoDB is executed by that callback function. That's where the route will be triggered. So in a terminal, I'm going to open a new terminal, and in there, we're going to say npm start. Oh, okay, show me this. Let's just try it. Let me restart the node one and let me put this. So The node one is coming up. I want to see this console print out the result here. Okay, REST API port connected. Okay, good. So you see here, telling us down here, this is connection inside Mongo controller. So it works. So after connected to the MongoDB, it triggers the callback function. So in the next in some time now, we're going to write the route inside here instead of this. So the route will be inside this callback function. That's what we're going to do right now. So let's keep a space down here. Okay, so after testing and we saw that it worked, right now we have to start using a GridFs stream. We have to start streaming to the folders. But before that, what should we do? We have to import the Mongoose. Mongoose helps in doing that. We have to open the connection. That's what we call open connection. So we're going to open connection for the GridFs stream. And for that, we need to import the Mongoose. So in our API controller class, this is where we're going to do that, because in this class, we're going to upload images, right? So first of all, we're going to create a constant. We're calling it connect. Let's just call it con, meaning connection, a short form. We're going to open a connection. So we're going to say Mongo dot create connection. Since we want to use GridFs to upload images, we have to open a connection. So once the connection is open, a function is triggered. So let's open the connection now. So this is how you open a connection before you use the GridFs stream. You have to import the Mongoose. Sorry, it's Mongoose, not MongoDB, Mongoose. You have to import the Mongoose. So when you import the Mongoose, there's just a Mongoose. So let's get it. What am I saying? Mongoose, okay. Sorry guys, let me change this to Mongoose. Require. Then we're going to type in here Mongoose. Down here, okay. So the Mongo now dot create connection here. And then inside remember we imported the stream and all of that. So let's see, we create connection, and then we have to pass in the Mongo URL here. So I'm going back to my connection here. I want to pick some fields and parameters here. I'm going to pick the .env and all of this, because we need to open the connection and we also need the MongoDB URL. So I'm going to paste it in here too. Yeah. This is how we upload images. You have to pass through this. Make sure you understand and make sure you're following up. You can pause the video and go through this code and look what I'm doing, if you're following up. So you have to pass the MongoDB URL here in order to open the connection. And remember, I have to make use of the .env, because the Mongo URL is actually stored in a .env file. So that's where you access it. So you see a .env file here. So that's where you access it, or the URL. So we have to open the connection by passing in the URL. Then once you create a connection, we have to check if it's open. So we're going to say con dot once open. So once the connection is open, we're going to trigger a function. So that function is where we're going to create more of like a folder for where we're going to upload the images to. So we're creating a function here. So once the connection is open, we're going to create a folder for storing and uploading images. So we're going to say once the connection is open, console.log, we're going to connect. Let's just write the connection is open. Okay. So once the connection is open, for now, we're going to just test it. You're going to see connection is open. But normally, once the connection is open, what we're going to do next is to create a folder, or more like a collection, where all the uploaded images is going to go to. So you see that now. So let's go to the terminal. Let's just test this. You're going to see connection is open. We're going to run on the terminal. So I'm going to say npm start. So npm start here. And I go down and see REST API port connected and all of this coming up. And then you see connection is open. So you can see down here that the connection is open. All right, so now the connection is open. What we do is we create a collection for storing the images. You understand? We create more like a document folder, you see. So in here, we're going to do that now. We're going to create a document, more like a document. So we're going to say, we work with our grid stream. Yeah, so we're going to make use of grid stream. Remember I told you about stream. It helps us to stream images, you see. So what we're going to work with now. So we're going to create more of a variable here. We're going to call let's just call it GFS, yeah. For now, it's just going to be like that. Then it's going to be equal to null. Initially, we're going to initialize it with null. Then coming inside, once the connection is open, we're going to say the GridFs is going to be equal to what we imported. Remember, we imported a library. That library is up here, the grid stream. If you check up here, you're going to see grid stream. So remember, after I showed you I installed the library, you saw that we imported it. And now we're going to make use of it here to create more of like a collection document where we're going to store the images. So we're going to say grid stream and grid stream dot connection.db. So in here, we're going to pass the connection.db. I'm going to pass mongoose.mongo. So we're going to say mongoose mongo. The mongo is actually more of like a function that comes along with the mongoose library. Yeah, it comes along with the mongoose library. So we call it in here .mongo. Okay. So, but there's one more thing. Let me change the name up here. Let me change this. This name should be mongoose, yeah, because we're referring to this mongoose, yeah. So we're going to say mongoose. We're going to change this to mongoose, yeah, and we're going to change this to, I'm saying mongoose. We're going to change it here to mongoose. So that's the same mongoose. We're calling here mongoose.mongo. All right. So now the next thing is we're going to use this GridFs to actually create a collection of folders. We're going to call it, where do you want to store this folder? Where do you want to store your images? So that is being done here by the GridFs. So we're going to say GridFs.create or just collection, GridFs.collection. So you see the collection here. I'm going to call it upload. So that we're going to store all our images inside this folder here, uploads, you see. So that is it. So GridFs, this GridFs collection, I'm going to store it inside uploads. All right. So now we've created a more like a way we're going to store our images. Now, the next thing is to create your storage. How do we store these images inside that folder upload? So that's what you should understand now. So now, first of all, we've created a connection, which is the first thing we're going to do, and we've done it. So after we're done here with the GridFs, we have to go to the storage. So the storage here is, initially it's going to be null, and then after we're done with the connection, we need to create a storage. So we're going to have a storage object here. So let's say storage is equal to, so if you go, I think if you go up or something, let me check. Okay, yeah, if you go up, we imported, we installed this library. So now we're going to make use of the library we imported here. So we're going to say the new GridFs storage, which we imported up there. So it's in the new GridFs storage. So that is it. So now the GridFs storage is going to contain some, let me just say some parameters, some object. Let me just say it's going to contain an object. So this object is going to take in a file, and it's also going to take in a URL you get. So the URL is going to be the MongoDB URL. So you're going to take in an object that contains a MongoDB URL and a file, you understand? So that is it now. So now we need the MongoDB URL, which of course we have already, and a file. So let's pass that in here. So to create a storage member, you have to use the GridFs storage, which we imported up there. If you check it, we imported it. Now I'm gonna pass an object here. The object is gonna contain a file and a URL. It's gonna contain a URL and it's gonna contain a file. So the URL is gonna be Mongodb URL. So that is it, Mongo URL. So you're gonna have the grid. Okay. The Mongo URL is gonna be here. Okay, so now we have to create a file, and the file is gonna take in parameters here. So for the file, we're gonna have a callback function that takes in a request and a file parameter. All right, so now we're gonna have the request and a file parameter. So this callback function is gonna return a promise, you can see. So we're gonna return a promise here. So a new promise. So the promise to is gonna we're gonna pass in a function inside of it that will contain a resolve and reject parameter. To see that it resolves or it rejects it. So if there's an error, it's gonna reject actually. So you're gonna contain the resolve and the reject. That is it now. So the thing is, that is it. And now inside here, inside this callback function, that is where we're gonna make use of a crypto in order to generate the byte. So we're gonna make use of crypto here. So this is how you create a storage object. After you open the connection, it creates the collection folder, which is the upload. The next thing is to create a storage object, which is the new GridFs storage. So we will use crypto here to create the byte. So that is it. So the next now we're going to make use of crypto inside this function here, inside this callback function to generate the byte. All right, I hope you're following. So that's the next step. So after all that being done, now what we need to do is make use of the crypto. So earlier we imported the crypto. You can see it up there. This is it here, the crypto. So if you haven't imported it, make sure you import it. So to use it down here, we're going to say the crypto. You're going to say it's going to create a random byte. So I'm going to say this crypto up here. That is the crypto. So the crypto here dot random byte. So it's going to take in digit 16 here. And then it's going to take in a callback function too. So it's going to take in a callback function. So the callback function here is going to contain the error, if it's an error, while generating the byte, or it's going to take in a boof, kind of like a buffer. So that is it. It takes in two inputs here, the error and the buffer, you see. So we're going to make use of this error to actually either reject the file or we resolve it. If there is no error, then we resolve the file and send it to the user. So that's what we're going to do here. So we're going to say, if there is an error, let's say if there's an error, then we're going to reject it. So error, we're going to say reject. That's reject. I'm going to say reject error. So if there's no error, then we resolve it. So either you resolve it or you reject it. So let's say if there's no error right now, what do we do? If there is no error, we resolve it. So what we do is, so we do here is resolve. We're going to resolve a file info. So first of all, we need to create a file info, like a file info object. So we're going to create a file info and we're going to resolve that file info. So I'm going to say file info is going to be an object here. So the object is going to contain the file name. It's going to contain the collection folder. Where are we going to store the file? We created it earlier in the upload. So we're going to use that same name. So that's more like a bucket. So the file info is going to contain a file name and a bucket name. All right. So as you already know, the bucket name is we did it earlier. Let me check it up here. If you see, when we created the collection, we call it the bucket name is going to be upload. The same thing with the collection because that's where they are all going to that same folder. So we're going to say upload here, and then we're going to create a file name. So every file is going to have a unique file name. So that's what we're going to create right here. So we're going to create a file name. We're going to see it here. It's going to be a constant file name here. Constant file name is equal to. So to create a file name, what we're going to do is we're going to make use of the original file name and a lot of things here. So I'm going to make use of the buffer here. So the buffer.toString, I'm going to pass in X, more of like hexadecimal, you see. So the buffer.toString, I'm going to say X here. And okay, X here. Then we're going to add we're going to use the path here. The path. I'm looking for the path here, P-A-T-H. Okay, that is it. We're going to say the path dot exact name, like ext, the exact name. So we're going to get the exact name from the file. We're going to say the path dot exact name. Okay, so inside this exact name, we're going to say the file dot original name. Okay. All right, so now we have the file name generated. So we're going to pass this file name into the file info object. So that's what we're going to do. We're going to pass it inside here. All right. So now the next thing is to resolve this file info. So we're going to resolve it. So we're going to say resolve. We're going to resolve the file info. Okay, that is it. So now I think we are done with the storage. We've created the storage object. And we've also done the collection. We've created the GridFs stream. So you're going to see. All right, so with all this done, we're going to say we are done with the storage object here. We've created the storage object, and up here we created after the connection. Then remember the connection was created in the utils where we connected to the Mongodb and we exported it so that any other file can access it. So we exported it down here. So once you call on this, it actually triggers the connection. So in the API controller, once the connection is triggered, and then we go up, we now imported, remember we imported it here from the connection, we imported the connection class here, and we now say, okay, we imported the crypto and all of this. Then after that, we also, time to make use of the Malta because we haven't mixed with the Malta. So after you create the file storage, we have to make use of the Malta. So all these libraries here are actually functional and important. So we created some parameters, then we now called on the connection. Then after it has connected to the MongoDB, we now come here and we now create the connection. We open it and create the GridFs stream. We created the collection folder, the uploads. We now created the storage. So we now created the storage here, you see. So the storage here was created with passing the URL and we created a file. So that file is what we're gonna upload to the database. We return the promise here, and the promise here we created a file name and file info, and we finally resolved it. So that was much more kind of time consuming, but we're almost done. So now we're going to use Malta. Let's see, Malta is what we're going to use next. We're going to use Malta to actually pass in the storage object into it, the Malta, and then we now use the Malta as the middleware for image upload. Okay, so now after all of this here being done, it's time to use the Malta. We have to use the Malta. It's time to make use of the Malta. We're going to pass in the storage into the Malta. So the Malta is imported up here. You see, we installed the library. I showed you that now we imported it, but now it's time to use it. And we're using it below this storage object here. So after I'm below the storage instance, we use it. So we pass in the storage to the Malta. Okay. So that's what we're going to do now. We're going to just create the Malta instance and all of that. So now we're going to write a Malta. Malta. Then we're going to open the bracket. And then when we open the bracket, we're going to pass in the storage here. And that's it. So Malta, open the bracket to pass in the storage. But we need to assign like a variable, this should be a variable here up here. I'll work with that. So we're gonna create another variable here, and the variable is upload image. So upload image 2 is gonna be null initially. It's gonna be null. And then coming down, we're gonna make use of it. So upload image here is gonna be equal to this Malta. They're gonna be more like we're gonna call the instance there when we want to make use of it as the middleware. So now that is it. So now that's just what we need to do with Malta. We just pass in the storage instance. So we are done now with Malta. So now we make use of the Malta. We've made use of the GridFs storage. We've made use of the GridFs stream. You saw that. We've made use of the crypto. And, we've done a lot of things here. I showed you how I created this connection. I've been importing the connection that has to do with the Mongodb connection. So we just call this file here. What this file does is it handles the connection by, we have the mongos, the .env, we configure the .env, we also call the mongo URL from the .env file, and then created this function. So this function here helps to connect to MongoDB, and we exported out the function. So we can call this class whenever we want to actually connect to MongoDB. We just wanted to prevent a boilerplate code kind of work. So we had to just create one class that does the connection to MongoDB by exporting out that function. So yeah, that is it here. So we had to import it here, and then we now use that. We have the Mongoose. We created some variables here, and then the GridFs, we did all of this. You saw how we did that, and now we used all of it here. So I'm walking you through the steps we went through before. I'm walking you through the steps in case you want to go back and understand, look through it. So after the connection, we now had to open the connection for the GridFs stream. We now created a collection called the upload. After we created the collection called the upload, let me just write something up here. So establish a connection. Establish the connection here. Establish the connection to grid stream. So you're gonna establish the connection to the GridFs stream here. All right, so that's it. Then after you establish the connection, that was now when we now went ahead and we created a storage instance. So we created a storage instance down here after the connection. Let me just write it here. So we're gonna say set up the storage. Alright, that is it. So now we created a storage instance, and That's it. So now open the connection, we set up the storage. Then we now equated it to this. Then we now had to pass the MongoDB URL. We had to also create a file object here. So the file, you actually had to, there's a callback function that to return the promise. And then we generated a byte, and we also created a file name. We had to resolve the file info here. So lastly, then I think we had to reject, if there's an error, we reject it. And coming down here, we now had to now pass the storage to the Malta. So you see, we pass the storage down here to the Malta that we're going to use. So these are the steps you have to do in order to upload an image to MongoDB. That is what you need to do. So what is remaining, that we're going to look at the necessary route, and then we're going to create a middle. We're going to make use of that Malta as a middleware to upload our images. So I'll show you how to do that. That's not really going to be a hard work. It's going to be easy to do. So we're going to use Malta as the middleware and all of that. So that is it for this. Now let's go to the next step now. All right, so we're almost done with all of what we need to do, but now what we need to do is make sure you can retrieve and you can see the image, view an image uploaded. So so far now we've made use of different libraries, and as you can see in here, we've made use of the Express, we've made use of the Express here. You know what Express does? It helps you in more like HTTP and all of that for your node. And then we imported the model of the user. We created that. Check here, see it, the user model. We have the bycrypt library. I'm gonna show you. I didn't use that yet. I use that for password. I showed you how to use that for password. Then I use the Malta. We have the route, and then we have this connection class here. So this connection class or this connection class here, all it does is handle a MongoDB connection. So we have the grid, and there's the GridFs stream, and we also have a .env file, and we have the mongoose. See the mongoose here. We have the mongoose for the MongoDB operations. We have the GridFs storage. That is it here. We have the GridFs storage, and then we have the crypto. And then you have the path here. So all these libraries are what we use to make sure you have them installed and import them here. Then we have some variables here. These variables are just things we use as more like a temporary identifier. So I'm just going through what we've done. I'm going through what we've done. We have this connection for the GridFs stream. Let me just leave it as connection there. Yeah. So we have this for the GridFs stream. We use this to actually stream the images and create a collection folder. And then we have the upload image that we passed into the Malta, or we assigned to the Malta object. So that is it. But this connection, did I get? Okay, I think I removed it by mistake. Let me take this back. I think I removed the connection. Okay, good. Let it be there. So remember, this connection helps you to connect to the MongoDB. If you want to establish a MongoDB connection, that helps you do that. So I explained to you. Let me go down here in my utils. You can see the connection there in utils. So inside the utils, you have the connection. We have the mongoose. We have the .env. We have .config, and we have this function here. So this is the function that is being exported. So when you import this file, you can now trigger this function. The function is being exported, you see. So what it does is that it helps you connect to the MongoDB. So you can see that. So we exported it down here. The function was exported. So any class now can easily get access to this function. It just helps us to prevent the boilerplate kind of code. And so that is it here. This is how we import it. So when we import it, we call it a connection. Then this triggers that function. Then we do all of this inside of it. So once the connection is open, we We use the grid. This is the GridFs stream. Once the connection is open, we use the GridFs stream to actually stream the images and create a collection folder. And I showed you that. So let me just write it here. So open the connection, open the stream, and then create a folder. Then down here we create a storage. And it creates the storage bucket. All right, so then here we create the storage bucket. So in use of the GridFs storage, the GridFs storage, we actually imported it here, which was also installed, So the GridFs storage here, we pass in the URL, which is the Mongodb URL, and we create a file. So here for now, we have a function. So this function now returns a promise. It returns a promise and it resolves all of this. Okay. So now we use the crypto to create random byte, and if there's an error, we actually reject, or else if there's no error, we create a file name. So the file name is created here. If there is no error, we create a file name using the boost, the string, and the path. So now you pass in the file name to the file info object, and this bucket name should definitely be the same with the collection name, it's the same as the stream collection. Yeah, so it's the same. Definitely the names are the same, don't make it different. So we pass in the bucket name, and we also pass in, and we resolve the file info. So after all that is done, we now set the upload image, which is here, is equal to the Malta, and we pass in the storage. Yeah, to be passed in the storage here. So this is mostly the necessary setup and what you need to actually upload images. So this is now, so the route here, in the sign up route, the user uploads a profile picture. So the middleware, the upload image, the single image helps you to upload. There's a middleware, you see it here. There's a middleware. So the middleware helps you to upload image, you see. So the request, let me just do this. So the request.file name, the request.there, you see the file name, will help you get the name of the file. So we're gonna get the name of the file and we assign it to the profile picture. So whenever you want to upload an image, we get the file name and then we assign it to the profile picture. So the middleware helps you get that file and the file name and all of that, So and the file name definitely was created, you see. It was created. Remember that for every file, the storage here generated file name for it. So now we have this. So we now save the user, and then there's a response, more like a JSON response here. You pass in the user details in the response, and then there's a message here, successfully registered. So for now, we're not using JWT. I'm going to do that in the next series of this video. We're going to do a JWT authentication, But for now, I'm using the hash password, for just using sec, Then we have the image URL. Yeah, the image URL is generated from the file name. You see the request.file name. So I created a route for that image URL. So let's go down, and if you see here, up here we have the request body.password is not equal to null. So if there is no password, you're going to say the password is required. We're going to tell the user that the password is required. Then else, catching the error. So coming down here, there's a route. What this route does is it helps you create a URL, and using that URL, you can actually view an image. You see, you can view a specific file by just passing in the file name. So all you need to do is you pass in a file name to this URL, and then the URL goes to the database and fetches the image for you and then displays it on your screen. So for now, the file name is more of like a parameter here. So in order to retrieve a file from MongoDB, you want to retrieve a file from MongoDB. We're going to use the GridFs stream here, dot files. Then we're going to say find one. So we're going to find a file based on the file name. So we're going to say the file name is going to be gotten from the request parameters. So we're going to say request.params.file name. Yeah, that is it. So we're going to get a file and then it returns, or we're just going to pass in a callback function. Yeah. So for now, we're going to check if there is no file. If the file length is equal to 0, that means there is no file. If there is no file, let's see, the file dot length is equal to 0, there is no file. Yeah, there is no file. So we're going to send a JSON error telling you the resource does not exist. You see. So else, if the length is not equal to 0, you're going to see there is a file. And then we're going to set the content type, and then we're going to actually use the GridFs stream to stream the images, and then we're going to pipe it down for the user to view it. So this particular route helps you to actually display images by just passing in the file name. All you need is the file name, and then once you pass in the file name, it actually fetches the images from the database and then pipes it out for you to view. So that is all this route does. So this is just a route that handles retrieving files and actually displaying it for the user. So that is it. To go through that route, at the end of this tutorial, you subscribe. I'm gonna post a link to the GitHub when I'm done. So now when this link is hit up, when you hit this sign up link, it has a middleware, and the middleware helps you to upload images. And down here, we assign the file name of the image you choose. If you choose to upload an image, that file name is being assigned as a profile picture during sign up. So down here, we have the image URL. So for now, we're using localhost. So I'm going to attach the file name to this URL. Yeah, I showed you how I created this URL down here. So with that, we can now view the image. You see, this is the URL. All you need is the file name appended to it as a parameter. So that is what we're using here. So that's what we're using here. Okay, so all of this have been explained, and I hope you're following. I think now we should test it on Postman and see how everything works. So let me open up my Postman. So this is my Postman now. I want to test the sign up. And as you can see, it's going to be a post request. And then if I go back to my IDE, let's go to the sign up route. This is what we need. We need this endpoint here. We're going to copy it. And then I'm going to come paste it here for the sign up. It's going to be a form that will have the name. So I'm going to change this name to something else. Joseph testing. Okay. Then for here, we're going to have email Joseph testing@gmail.com. Okay. Then the password is going to be, so let's send a request. Let's see. There's a 5 internal server error. So the error here is telling us that the database connection must be open to store files. Let's go back to my IDE. Let me open my terminal, and then I'm going to run the npm start. I'm gonna run npm start here. So it's gonna start. Okay. All right, so let's try again now. I'm gonna send. I think it's uploading. It's uploading. Okay, good. It works now. So you see 200 status. Okay. And then it gives us the files, the username, and all of that. These are details. It gives us everything. The profile picture, it's the profile picture name, gives us everything. And with this URL here, for now, using the hash password token. But with this URL here, you can now view the user image. You see, this is the image we uploaded. Just click on it. Yeah, this is the image. Actually, it's just a Postman image. But I'm going to select another image right now, something different. Let's choose another image here. So I'm going to choose another image. Let me see. Okay, let's use this design here. Okay. Then we're going to send a post request again. Let's just hit the send. All right, so it works. So now let's see if we can view the image we just uploaded. I'm going to view it on the browser and I'm going to view it on Postman, You just copy it up. Let's copy it to the browser. Okay, good. So the image, it works. The endpoint works. You can now view images with that endpoint. You can view the user profile image, you see. Let's use Postman and it still works on Postman. Okay. So the endpoint for uploading and retrieving images are working. So mostly I think in the next video, we're going to focus more on JWT and authentication and a lot of other things. So you can actually go through the video, pause it, look through it, and if you don't understand, just message me through the comments section. But everything is step by step. Subscribe, like the channel. Thank you.